And I think the immigrant mentality, slang for like some sort of mix of ambition and really almost like a form of lack of complaining and or a mix of gratitude. There is incredible advantages of being an immigrant in a place of opportunity like America. And what I mean by that is there are plenty of 7th generation Americans listening right now that have full accountability, don't complain, tremendous ambition, incredible tenacity. But there's one very big truth in human life, which is it's hard to be hungry when you're fed. And for me, it's very clear, it's not hard to analyze. When I was 12 and I wanted things, and I had already at the age of 12 entered the zone where my mother felt that she didn't need to buy things for me, that if I wanted them, I should go get it. You can imagine selling lemonade or baseball cards or whatever I had to do. Shoveling snow was a big activity of mine. Washing cars was a big activity of mine. May she rest in peace. I lost a friend that I grew up with, Marissa Bird. Makes me a little emotional, but like we fucking, Robbie Turnick, I know you're watching too right now. Andy Greco, my little sister Liz, we fucking hoses on our, like real hoses, not like back when they made them well, like wrapped on our shoulders, like bucket of water, like we grinded because we grew up in an environment where like mommy and daddy were not gonna buy you things at Toys R Us. Like if we wanted Bazooka from Krauser's, like we needed to find that 5 cents, and of course, that became a humongous advantage.
And how did that change the way you dealt with money? Like my family just used cash. I also have found that regardless of where your family's from, nobody used the dishwasher. Did you use the dishwasher?
We didn't even have one. Like we grew up very, just to remind everybody, because I know there's probably a lot of people here watching that don't have a lot of context on me. Like I was born in the Soviet Union. When we moved to Queens to immigrate to America, we lived in a studio apartment with multiple family members, 5, 6, 7, depending on what was going on, because there was 3 studios. Like we were really poor, not like we weren't lower. Like a lot of people like talk about, I grew up humbly, and what they're saying, thank God, this is a wonderful thing. We're in a prosperous country. They mean they grew up middle class. Like they didn't have a BMW. Like we grew up, now to my dad's credit, we weren't dirt poor for very long. We were dirt poor, and then we moved to Dover in like a little bit better situation. And then I mainly grew up in a townhouse in Edison, New Jersey, which was a blue collar, lower middle class neighborhood. And so we didn't have a dishwasher. Like I remember thinking a dishwasher was like, that was status. I remember thinking, as old as 14 years old, which would be 1989, I remember thinking that if you had a BMW or a Mercedes, that would be equivalent to the way we look at the Kardashians today. Like private plane, yachts, Elon Musk, Bezos. Like to me, if you had a Mercedes or a BMW, you were filthy, filthy rich. So my relationship with money though is very fascinating in hindsight, which I think, and you'll probably know this better than I, so I'm almost asking you this question. I got really lucky and fortunate that I don't have a relationship with money where I view it as validation. I don't hoard it. I definitely don't weaponize it. I view it as a byproduct of the thing I really love, which is the game. Winning. But I also love losing.
Tell me more.
Well, I think entrepreneurship's interesting to me. Like, I think about this a lot. I love winning, but I equally get great joy in losing. Another great podcast like yours I did, where I finally broke it down, was Steve Bartlett's podcast. I got a lot of emails about this. I talked about this thing that happens to me. It actually just happened a couple weeks ago, where I still at 48 play pickup basketball, and you shoot for teams. And sometimes if you shoot for teams, instead of just mixing up teams, if there's 10 guys there, and you're like, okay, let's make this kind of even, you're tall, you guys split, you're good, you stink, like, which is common. We always shoot for teams. And sometimes when you shoot for teams, the teams are obnoxiously lopsided. And I especially get excited when my team is much worse. And I really weirdly like when we lose the first game, 11-2. something chemically triggers into me where I get really excited about it.
Mode?
It's kind of like it's nothing like too wild other than like, can we have the intestinal fortitude? Can we have the chemistry amongst ourselves? Can we be clever or figure something out to somehow now win the next game? And sometimes the teams are very lopsided. You get your ass kicked again and again. And I just talked about in this podcast like how I get enjoyment out of that. And it's similar to business. I don't get devastated when agendas, investments, concepts, strategies, or even companies I start fail. I view it as that's the price of admission. I don't feel entitled that because I have been historically successful, that I'm allowed to be successful in the next thing I do. And weirdly, I like when I fail because it allows me to talk to myself of like this fun relationship of like, see big shot, like this fucking game doesn't give a fuck about you. This is real merit shit and you weren't good enough. I like that. It's kind of like the podcast ratings. I've been doing it for a long time and it ebbs and flows, right? When I heard there was an opportunity to do the show with you, I was pumped because we hadn't seen each other in a while. And then, during that process, I was like, oh, and I got to see how well this show's doing. And that makes me so happy for you. What I liked about that was when I looked at it, that was the first time I'd looked in a long time. And I got to see a lot of people that have been doing it for a long time and a lot of people that are emerging. And you see, and you know this because you do this for a living, over the last 10 years, there's been like just a lot of ebbs and flows. Like there was multiple years where my podcast was in the top 100 consistently overall. That is not where I am now, and I think I deserve that because I know that I'm not putting everything into my podcast right now because I'm putting into other things. I like that. I feel like you do deserve to be where you are and you're right because you're doing it. And I don't know, I'm obsessed with merit. That's why I love sports. Like you can talk anything you want, but they're gonna play tonight, a tennis match is gonna happen, a basketball game is gonna happen, and everybody can talk, but the game's gonna play out and the game's gonna be the game. And business is the closest thing to that. I like that there's merit in it, and I don't want to only like the game for what I get out of it. I wanna love the game for the game. And then, because that's my obsession, yes, I got fortunate. My passion wasn't painting, it wasn't singing, it wasn't gardening or golfing. My passion was entrepreneurship. The byproduct, if you're good at that, is there is economic upside. No different, by the way, than if you're a remarkable athlete or actress or things of that nature. But I find a lot of people that grow up with little become overly obsessive and have a very unhealthy relationship with money. They use it as a makeup or a band-aid to close up feelings that they had from that era. I grew up in a very fortunate environment, which was, we didn't have a lot of money, but I was happy all the time because my mother was such a supernova. So I was one of those lucky people who learned that money isn't the antidote to happiness. And I actually believe the people that are most happy in the world are the ones who don't grow up with a lot and grew up with extreme happiness because they're taught from day one, there is no correlation to happiness and money, and I'm very grateful for that. Someone who I reopened, meaning an investment was closed, it was done. I went to bat for this person, to the founder, to reopen the round and let them put $50,000 in, or 100, I don't remember, an investment. The company went on to have a massive exit. This person made heavy 8 figures. And when I went and asked for a book buy, they bought none and ghosted me. And I remember that being a really exciting moment for me because it was when I was able to call my bluff on myself. I genuinely mean what I'm about to say. I've continued to have a relationship with this person, later on. I genuinely don't judge the person because my brain goes to, maybe they were busy. I asked 4 times because I knew I made this person lots of money. I was like, this guy can buy 500 copies, I really knew. I'm so grateful and thankful for my parenting, my DNA, my circumstance. The fact that I have no real feelings against that. I just only know how to deploy optimistic compassion, right? Maybe he was in a bad place. Maybe, I don't know. Who am I to judge? And don't forget, here's the big key to this, Nicole, and I hope this lands for people. I was asking. When you ask, you're not allowed to judge.
But it's vulnerable.
Well, but here's my thing. When you're asking, you're the one asking. When people get mad at people for not reciprocating their ask, I remind them all the time, like, you're fucking asking.
Like, don't look a gift horse in the mouth or whatever the saying is.
I just believe there's something very powerful around expectation. If you're able to get into a place where you're just not expecting, you're only in control of yourself. And so anyway, I don't know how we got there, but that's, your book, yes. I think.
You were pissed.
I'm being dead serious with you. When I realized, oh my God, this person's not gonna buy it, I was in order, baffled, because he just made tens of millions of dollars. B, I'm being just very vulnerable and transparent. Baffled. B, quickly to, I hope he's okay. To C, I really don't give a shit about this. This is epic. I actually eat my own dog food. I talk about no expectation. I literally know every detail about what's happening here, and I'm not that upset about it. Fuck it, let's move on. I love that people are being more vulnerable today, but I will say in the growth of vulnerability, we need growth and accountability. People become very good at blaming mom and dad for all their problems. Oh, this all sucks because my mom did this. Got it. Let me do the work. No. Yes, you're a big boy now. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
When I talk about being better at candor, I never bring up what I know to be true about what got me there. I always say, watch what I do, not what I say. I champion my parents, maybe more than I know. But I'm a human being. There's things my parents did that I think were misturns, miscues. I never talk about those things.
Yeah.
Talk about my dad, maybe not like in the work environment on certain things, but not me, like things he did and so I think more people should look at that. I think people need to look at accountability. I think people are finally looking to be a little more vulnerable and things of that nature. But I think accountability is on the decline, which is leading to a lot of the unhappiness in the world. I believe the quickest path to happiness is accountability. Once you realize that everything is your fault, you actually become happier. I mean, there's real shit in the world.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm one of them. I hear you.
So when I talk to my friends in private, this is less public talk, or acquaintances or business people, if they ever I'm so out there, people feel comfortable with the way I roll. I get into some deep ass combos.
Yeah.
I say to them all the time because I can't relate. It's very hard to relate with somebody who's had an extreme thing happen. But I do say this to them every time, no matter how, tears in my eyes for hearing their story, I will still say, because I feel responsible for it, hey, just to remind you, if anybody on earth with the same exact circumstances as you has ever done the work to get to a content and happy place, well, then you can too. Because a lot of people use their damage or their negative story as an excuse to never evolve.
That's exactly why this podcast exists, because I had a fucked up life, sexually abused, foster care, my dad kidnapped me, my husband died, broke my back.
Yeah, let's just, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want everyone who's listening to this. You just rattled off 4 things that if 90%, 80%, 70% of the audience had one of those things happen.
Yeah.
My grandmother, may she rest in peace, Esther, brought up being a widow every day of her life. When I got older, I tried to explain to her, I'm like, Grandma, I get it, but you can't use that you've been widowed as an excuse for every single thing you do, because unfortunately, hundreds of millions of people in the test of time have been widowed.
Yeah, we got to move it.
You got to move it not for anyone but yourself.
Yeah, and we can.
Exactly. Before you start moving it, you know how people say, no, Sally, you got to do this for your kids. Fuck that.
No, fuck that. Yeah, 100%.
Sally, you got to do this for you. And once you do it for you, then it will happen for the kids. I believe what the media has wrong and what society has wrong about social media is they think it's changed us. And I believe that social media has exposed us. And I think the only way an alcoholic, the only way an abusive spouse, the only way someone that's really struggling with something dark can actually fix it is the day he or she says, I am. And then they start the process of fixing it, right? I am not, by the way, I did this on a plane at 38 and a half years old in Houston, in this great state of Texas, my head on the window, 38 and a half years old. I use a half because I'm 11 years old. And I say, I'm gonna die before 100 if I don't start taking care of myself.
What were you doing?
I just wasn't exercising or eating well. And I could feel it. And I said, when I'm 40, I'm gonna start taking care of myself. And by the time, that's literally what I said to myself. And by the time I landed in New York 3 hours later, I said, the fuck am I waiting to 40? And I called Mike Vacanti, who was my last trainer that I only showed up 3 times out of 14 sessions, but paid for them all. I said, Mike, do you know a young person that can travel with me? Because I've also figured out what I need. I need a babysitter. I'm very accountable to others, to my family, to my employees. I'm good, but to myself, I'm like, what up, bro? You know, and so.
Me too.
And he said, what about me? And I literally worked out with him this morning, 10 years later. He's moved to Minnesota now. He doesn't travel with me full time, but he was on my FaceTime this morning in the hotel in Austin, and we worked out, and it changed my life, but I knew it for a decade. The first inclinings of 38 was 28. But it took me 10 years of subconscious and conscious talk with myself to finally have the tipping point moment. I believe a lot of people know that I'm right, that social media has exposed us, not changed us, but we're not there yet, collectively as 8 billion people. But when we get there, we will look back in 70 years as social media on top of the internet was a great thing that happened to man. It just was super painful for 25 years getting to the next place.
I wonder how much of the reticence we have around not blaming social media for the way that we behave is that without social media, we need to accept that fact.
I love you so much. Accountability is the most interesting conversation on earth right now. We have become obsessed with fingers. Trump sucks, Biden sucks, America sucks, China sucks, my mom sucks, my dad sucks, my spouse sucks, my boss sucks. Everyone sucks but you. Everyone sucks but you. Our lack of accountability on the back of atrociously bad parenting that was well intended. Last 30 to 40 years, we over-coddled kids. We made 8th place trophies. We did a bunch of dumb shit. We became friends with our kids, not parents that are friendly to our kids. And we lost our way. It was well intended. I have no judgment. As a parent myself, it's fucking impossible. It is the hardest. However, it still is true. And we have become incredible. Of course we blame everybody. So many of us grew up with parents that fought our fights. They ran to the school and yelled at the teacher.
How concerned are you about the relationship between teenagers and young kids and their use of social media?
I'm concerned if they have parents that didn't create boundaries and created self-esteem. So I'm concerned about the most insecure. But I also see it another way that people don't see it. The 14-year-old that is getting bullied online was also the 14-year-old that was getting bullied at school when I was growing up. I saw all of them, but they had no outlet. The 14-year-old today that's getting bullied online can move from TikTok and delete it and start a Twitch stream and hang out with 12 new friends playing a new game and create a beautiful life for themselves. I see that all the time. The kid that I saw bullied, I'm thinking about one kid right now in Ethel Hoppock Middle School in Asbury, New Jersey in 1989. When I think about him and then what he did in North Hunterdon, because I watched him for those 4 years, he had no outlet. There was no internet. He was the most lonely. We have decided that this is bad when it's good. These kids can find their friends in other places. On Fortnite, do you know how many kids that I know that are not socially winning in school are winning on Fortnite with other kids? Why are we not focusing on that? The reason we're not focusing on that is something atrocious happened. World leaders in politics have become incredibly not noble. The way that politicians around the world talk to each other is more similar to the way 5th graders talk to each other than grown-ups. The lack of civility in our society by world leaders is extraordinary. Discipline.
That's a,
Do you know how much of a drug sugar is? Do you know that my body, every time I see a piece of candy, loses its fucking mind? Do you know how fucking hard it is to me for fight? I was at Gap Inc. company the other day. I'm having a pretty good week with nutrition. I'm pretty happy with myself. And these little,
Olive.
you know those fucking peach gummies, the rings, those fuckers. I had to grab one and I was like, fuck you, Gary. But I've been able to win most of this week and most of the
peach ring.
Of course.
Let yourself have a peach
and
ring.
That's what and I'm glad you said that. That's where I was going. And you're allowed to go on social media and do frivolous shit and look at bikinis or look at sports or even leave a negative comment. It's okay, but not in sustained format. It's not okay to live your life going around the internet saying negative things because all it's doing is exposing that you're a piece of shit to yourself. You're not happy. Misery loves company. You need to get it out. Do you know how, honestly, the way I deal with negative comments is empathy and compassion and sympathy. They're not in a good place.
Yeah.
I feel bad. I don't feel bad for me. I take it in to make sure, I'll say it again, I never want to be delusional. I never want to get high on my own supply. I never want to buy into me. That's why I stay away from me. I'm Gary Vaynerchuk. I know what Garyvee is. It's me doing content publicly. It's like me being a comedian on stage, or me being, I love it. I love it. I'm not playing a character. It's still me, but it's not my identity, and I could stay away from it because I also don't want to buy into it. It's also going well. I don't want to think that I'm better than. My favorite feeling is to not think that I'm better than, but want to be better than. I don't think I'm better than, but I strive to be better than. It's a really cool relationship graph. But anyway, nonetheless, I'm so pumped about these last 3, 4, 5 minutes. I hope people rewind to the beginning of this. Again, this is gonna be a great era. Everyone has decided this is the worst. I just decided that this is the era where this had to be part of the equation. There used to be a world without guns, without atomic bombs, without written word, without, do you know how demonized electricity was when it first was invented? It had demons in it, literally demonized. Shit happens. Everyone's like, oh, we used to be awesome. I'm like, no, we weren't. The Holocaust wasn't awesome. Slavery wasn't awesome. The Black Plague wasn't awesome. World War I and II weren't awesome. Vietnam sucked. The Civil War was bad. You think social media is bad? You think the Democrat-Republican thing is bad now? Could you imagine if Twitter was popping during the Civil War? I mean, what the fuck's the matter with everybody? It's so funny. It's like everybody got an F in history. That's how everyone's talking right now. As if everyone got an F in history, or people aren't good at critically thinking. People are not willing to be thoughtful. I'm talking about the mental game. The mental game is the game.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the mental game is perspective. The mental game is self-esteem. The mental game is, ready? The mental game is very simple. I'll save a lot of people a lot of time and energy.
Go.
Do you value other people's opinions more than you value your opinion of yourself?
A lot of people do.
I know.
So
and I'm
what do
telling
they
everyone,
do?
don't do that.
What are some tangible things that they can do?
Don't do that sounds easy, but for a lot of people, very hard.
Everyone's different. For some people, it is years of deep therapy. For other people, it's meditation. But I believe the secret to what I'm saying is grounded in one thing. How much negative or positive information are you consuming? If you are somebody right now who struggles with those insecurities, I believe the formula has to do with your consumption of information. Who is in your ears? What is in front of your eyes? People love to shit on social media. Do you know that I can't find a single positive thing on mainstream media?
Can't find positive thing on mainstream media.
That's right.
Of course.
Go read any newspaper, any magazine, any television show, radio show. It's all negative.
People gave us a lot of shit. We said we don't have cable television in the house anymore because that.
I also don't watch people's Instagram story. I star only positive content. You're on my star. You can pick and choose and curate what you want to see. I don't buy it.
My fucking content is rainbows and sunshine and the Knicks and the Jets and garage sale and
happy things.
Happy things. Social media exposed us. It didn't change us. And I can find unlimited positive shit. I'm so grateful for social. There are people like you out there. You don't get airtime on CNN or Fox. It's too positive. You're not selling fear. You're not selling rubbernecking.
So they need to be mindful about what they're consuming.
I believe that is the point. And I think that starts actually in a very close place, not on your phone and not on your TV. I think it starts with your relationships.
Right.
I believe there are many people that should get divorced.
Yeah.
That aren't because their spouse is super negative and they're dragging them down. I think that before you do that, couples therapy, there's other things to do. I'm hoping not people are like, well, okay,
You're gonna pull that one clip.
Don't do that. Don't take me out of context. But I believe a lot of people have parents that are 70 that have been negative all 40 years of their childhood and life. And I don't think they should talk to that. If your mom is extremely negative and you talk to your mom 4 times a day because you're trying to rehabilitate your mom, you only have so much energy. And you're 40 now. I think you should talk to your mom twice a week instead of 4 times a day. And you should reallocate those hours to maybe your positive husband, to maybe your positive oldest son, to maybe a positive podcast. What you consume dictates what you think. It's why the world's changing so fast right now. There's so many new voices, so many new thoughts, so many different thoughts. It's why the world is changing. I believe the way that people get into a better mental place is by consuming practical optimism. Not delusional. I remember when The Secret came out, everybody kind of like misunderstood that book. They were like, if I just sit on my couch and pray for money, I'll get money. I'm like, I didn't read the book, but I was like, I have a funny feeling that's not what the book says. No, practical optimism. I talk about a lot of optimistic things, but it requires action. When you read the new book.
I know, tell us about that.
Day trading attention's hard. It's like when people hear me talk about like lots of content and this, and you have to know how YouTube Shorts works for it's hard. Same with what we're talking about now. It's hard to tell your mom who you've been enabling for 40 years that you need to cut her out a little bit. I don't mean cancel your mom. I mean regulate. It's hard to quit a job that pays you $200,000 a year without knowing your next job, but your boss and your coworkers are so toxic, it's been draining you for 8 years. I don't think that's easy. Not when you have a mortgage, not when you have college bills coming up, but I can tell you it's the answer of how to get happier.
The point is it all starts with you, and you have to take extreme accountability for your own life and look around and really look at the content you're consuming, look who you're around, actually say you have the power.
There's not one person's excuse that I'm willing to listen to for a sustained time. I'll be there for compassion up front, but eventually we're gonna have to talk about what are you gonna do about it. My friends, there's a lot of you doing this. Listen, if you're listening right now and you're 35 to 65, I'm going wide. You're in the era of where you have to stop blaming your parents for everything. Here's
You're
why.
even younger.
Yeah, and look what I'm doing. I'm being very empathetic. I'm starting just at 35.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
like,
old though.
I get it, brother, and I'm with you, but I'm going to be incredibly compassionate. If you're 35 to, forget about the 25, 28-year-olds. You're still kind of like, most people on earth, 35 to 65, continue to blame their parents for what hasn't worked out. And what I'm saying to them in the middle of this podcast is, hey, it's time to let that go and ask yourself, what are you going to do about it? Because let me give you an insight. Your parents, they had parents too. And I love that you love Grandma Fran, but Grandma Fran's the one who fucked up your mom for you to be mad at your mom. No, by the way, before we shit on Grandma Fran, I don't know if you know about great Grandma Gertrude, but she fucked up Grandma Fran. And so like this lack of compassion or empathy for our parents who also got fucked up, and this inability to be accountable for our ability to fix our fucked up, like you have generational shit, be the one that stops it. Or just be a contributor to the shit that's bothered you your whole life. Either you're a part of it or you break it.
Yeah, it's so funny. You mentioned your dad was 44 when you guys were working together, and I think about now having kids of my own. My mom was 22 when she had, 22, and you're blaming these. Yeah, you're blaming
what
these.
she's doing.
You're blaming these people.
I was on the bar with my tits out at 22. Jesus, you're fucking lucky that your mom was like even responsible.
You still kind of are. No, but
That's why he likes you.
Yeah, of course. To think, I went to that bar. To think that like we're blaming people that were that age and they were in many cases younger than us for all of our problems later in life is crazy to me.
Yes, and you combine that with where we are now with entitlement at scale, where we think that everyone should see the world the way we see it. When you guys moved from LA to Texas,
oh God
is right. I am so sure. I remember hearing that, either from Mona or seeing it. I'm like, oh, these poor two are about to get so much judgment from so many, because you did it a little bit earlier, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, everyone's allowed to do, like, I don't understand the audacity of thinking your opinions on other people's lives are like right.
Oh yeah, we got lots of shit.
Or like, just think about, I mean, we've done
Same people reach out and ask me how I like it and which neighborhood to live in.
at this point now, we're
course, it's the same-
approaching,
it's always
you know,
that.
what,
It's always that.
800 of these. And we've had people here and here,
That's
all
right.
sides of the political spectrum. And it's so funny because we have somebody on the right, people get really flustered. We have someone on the left, they get really flustered. I'm like, listen, we just want to listen to people and understand what makes them tick. You know what I mean?
Look, meet me in the middle, and day trading attention is purple for a reason. I'm obsessed right now with purple. I'm so tired of red and blue.
I think most
It's
are.
such horseshit.
Purple's royal.
It is.
Purple is royal.
I also think the other thing
It's
that
a blending
happened,
of the
you know
colors,
what
yeah.
really bothers me the most about the extreme red and blue of our society? We lost civility in it.
Oh yeah.
We're just so nasty. And politicians are to blame. I'm so upset with our politicians. Their lack of civility towards each other completely trickled down. I know tens of thousands of people, and I know thousands of people extremely well, and I know hundreds of people deeply well. There is no correlation between how much money someone makes and their level of happiness. I have friends who make $47,000 a year and are the happiest people I know. Their work-life balance is on point. They're part of 2 soccer teams. They play video games. They watch every show they want. They take 2 vacations that they scrap together, and they're freaking happy as hell. And I know tons of people who I grew up with in the Silicon Valley boom who have hundreds of millions of dollars in their bank account and are as miserable and as lonely and as broken as you'll ever see. So I implore all of you to please reverse engineer and figure out who you are and figure out what level of monetizing and stuff you need and what level of creativity you need. I promise you one thing that will catch you very off guard. I should be way more rich. I leave money on the table every day. I've left ungodly amounts of money on the table. I spend tons of times sending DMs and engaging with people, meeting people randomly and not cashing in. I actually believe the statement I'm about to make. I think that I love the journey and the game of entrepreneurship so much that I have subconsciously sabotaged my financial upside to make sure I can play this a little longer because I fear if the numbers keep getting too big, eventually it will take the fun out of it. When you are lucky enough, like I am, to actually do something that you love so much, do something that puts pressure against the one thing you care about besides it, which is the time I spend with my family. My family is my whole life. And being this and doing this is the only thing that cuts into that. I couldn't breathe if I wasn't an entrepreneur. I didn't breathe when I wasn't an entrepreneur. That's the reason I got D's and F's in school, because I just couldn't be me. And I'm not capable of that. And so I think being here excites me because I think coming to not LA, San Francisco, New York, London is always more fun for me. It always feels a little more practical. It always feels like there's a little bit more chips on the shoulder, which is what I have. But I want to remind everybody, just because you didn't grow up with a trust fund, just because you don't live in Silicon Valley, the market doesn't care. If you're good enough, you will win. My new book coming out in a month called Day Trading Attention is the follow-up to Jab, 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 Right Hook.
You were gonna name it
Jab, 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 Left Hook. But I realize that Day Trading Attention really captures what I want for all of you. We are now in a world that is, and so everyone here who understands how to do organic social media, what video and picture or written word works better on Facebook versus Instagram versus Snap versus YouTube versus LinkedIn, that framework is for all the OGs in this room, that is what television, radio, and the print and direct mail were. It is the new world order. It is where the attention of society is. And I think all of you in here know, it's not just a kid thing, right? There's unlimited, I sell to a lot of 60 to 9-year-olds in many of the demos and things I work on. We crush on Facebook. Crush. And don't forget, that started as college kids. And so, it's not that other mediums are dead. To me, the thesis of Day Trading Attention is, why would you want to pay more money to make something happen that you could do for less? That sounds incredibly irrational and not logical. And so I'm trying to help the world. I went very detailed. I also am not a great reader. I just read my audiobook in LA for a week. It was a grind. And it was funny, I've read all my books for my audiobook, except Jab, 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 Right Hook, because it was so visual. It was interesting. It was the first book that I've ever written that in the studio booth reading, there was a level of me being a little bored. And you would think that's bad. Who wants to write a boring book? But it wasn't that. It was that I went so technically deep in it because I felt like the time was right. I know as I sit here with everyone here today, and I have great hopes, and when I speak, my only dream is that someone can leave with something that brings them value. I don't know what else someone would do up here. Yeah. You know, and so similar to this book, I am 100% positive that whoever is best at organic social media across the 10 platforms. How many people here are in a B2B business? Raise your hands. So those hands, those 20 hands, you can't imagine what LinkedIn is right now. It's everything. I would never do another trade show. You could fire your whole sales staff if you were great at LinkedIn marketing. It's absurd how big that platform is.
I'm a LinkedIn stalker.
It's huge. And it's not DMing and spamming people, it's content, the way you put out on Facebook and things of that nature. So I'm aware that people, you know, I'm looking around and I'm aware that some people are like, okay, like, really, like, it's so real, it's uncomfortably real. So I tried to write the Bible for it, because I think it's the now, and I think the faster people understand what it means, the quicker people will get there. And I'll tell you what happened. If I may get a little nerdy with you, social media for the first 12, 13 years, the last kind of, you know, call it 2006 to 2020. Those 14 years, social media worked like email marketing. You tried to amass as many followers as you could, and then when you would post, a percentage of those people would see it. That's how it worked. I was an early investor in Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, like I've been in it.
Liquid Death too?
Liquid Death.
That was an employer of yours, wasn't it?
It sure was.
Man, I need to come work at Vayner.
Now social media is different. The TikTokification of every platform is now here. The way social media works now, if you're sitting here and you're borderline inspired to be like, you know what, I'm gonna take Gary on his bluff. I may go back for my organization or the things I'm passionate about and start to post a little more on social. I'm not gonna demonize it for what I politically am worried about. I'm gonna look at it for what it is, which is an empty vessel that humans fill. What you'll learn is that if the quality of the content is good, it will find its audience. There are people in this room, I have 15 million followers on TikTok that I've worked very hard since it was Musical.ly, before it was TikTok, amassing. Yet, tonight, I could post something that only gets 60,000 views, and you, sitting here today, inspired by these words, may create an account and post your first post, and if it's good, it may get 2 million views. That is a level of meritocracy around the message that is profound, and the biggest opportunity in the history of marketing, in my opinion.
How do those people get ready for a new shopping experience in store, or how do they prepare themselves for the future?
It is so much more fun to put yourself out of business before someone else does it for you. That's how. I was on stages like this as a youngster, begging and pleading bookstores to pay attention to having a website and to taking on social media and to doing Google AdWords, and they dismissed Amazon. They put yesterday on a pedestal. They said, Gary, you don't get it. This is 1997, Gary, at the Chamber of Commerce event in New Jersey. They're like, Gary, you don't get it. People like to go into the store and touch and feel it. I said, friends, you don't get it. People like better prices and convenience. And so, what do I say to that person, my man? I say that unless you go on the offense, someone else is going to. I get how you grew up. I get how you wish the world was. The problem is that's not how the market responds. Like, I think that this is a very basic question that has played out 100 times. I spoke in Florida years ago. I was an early investor in Uber. I missed the the great mistake of literally I was investing a lot at the time, and Travis, one of the co-founders of Uber, was one of my best friends. My first book I ever wrote, the only person I acknowledge in the whole book besides my family is Travis, because he had down period before Uber, and he helped me with the book. My homie. And I passed twice on the angel round of Uber. If I wrote the $25,000 to $50,000 check that I normally was writing back then, I would have made $500 million. That's called a mistake.
So back in the day.
But to finish that thought, I apologize. I spoke in 2000, I don't want to make it up, maybe 11, 12. I spoke at the Black Car and Taxi Convention. This was about a year and couple months into Uber's run. It was in San Francisco, New York. It was still not everywhere. And I gave a lot of talk of like, this thing's coming. And when I tell you a room like this laughed me off the stage. And they laughed me off the stage because of naivete. When I went into Q&A, one of the guys, maybe the third guy, said, Gary, that was very compelling, but you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, educate me, sir. He goes, we've got the politicians in our pocket. I said, sir, how? He said, how what? I said, how do you have the politicians in the pocket? He goes, we have money. I'm like, you clearly have no fucking idea what Silicon Valley is. They have a lot more money than you. And that's where I get emotional. I get emotional because people hold on to moats that don't exist. If you are not consumer-centric, you will lose. Uber didn't win because they had more money. Uber won because it was better for the consumer. The consumer is the only thing. For me, I obsess over the consumer, for the travel, for the bookstore. If you make it great for the consumer, then you can win, but you can't be delusional. If you sell a book for 30 bucks that Amazon sells for 13, you're gonna find the occasional person that wants that high touch and what have you, but there's no scale in that, and you're gonna lose a lot of people. And business is a tough game, man. Business is not your mommy and daddy. Business is not the government. It's not the education system. Business is an unemotional merit framework, and it is what it is. And so one of the reasons I spend a lot of time thinking about parenting and what I talk about with 8th place trophies is we are grooming zoo animals. We're caging them and protecting them. I don't know if you know what happened back in the day with zoos. They would run animals and then they would put them back in the wild. Those animals died within the first day. Because if you're a zebra chilling in the Bronx Zoo, and then they put you out there in Africa, a lion is eating your ass within a day. This is a big framework for me. The world is obsessed with or, it's and. So yes, of course, just like me, I as a public figure in this digital age am able to bring a lot of awareness to my businesses and the things I do, but my businesses also do their own marketing, right? Winetext.com, you should all sign up, my dad would be pumped. Winetext.com, we market for, because we think it's the best way to buy wine in the world. But I also use my personal brand to bring awareness to it. They both coexist. But the reason you thought that is people in business and in marketing have been infatuated with or because you couldn't afford to do everything back in the day. The newspaper was expensive, the radio was expensive, direct mail was expensive, television ads were expensive. But now it's so low cost. To just give a very tactical nugget, every person here, regardless of what you're passionate about and you want awareness for, being elected as an official, selling something, raising money for a nonprofit, all of you, the number one most important skill in making something happen in the world today is being good at organic social media, period. And people don't see it. The talk I gave this morning at 9 o'clock, they still think commercials are more important. As if any of you watch those. I mean, it's crazy. And so the reason you thought that was we've been taught or. The new world order is and.